G'day, this is Dan Shedlife. Welcome to the shed. Done a little project today. I'm going to make a waste oil powered rocket stove that's going to make charcoal in this drum. I'll draw you a picture. So the way this works is, first thing you do is you make a rocket stove. Now a rocket stove's pretty simple. It's just an L-shaped piece of pipe, square tube in this case. Air comes in there, fuel, and that creates the draw, and up and out it goes. So this will be encased inside, a bit hard to see, inside a 44-gallon drum, and pieces of wood will go inside here between the pipe and the outside wall of the drum, and that will basically cook the wood without oxygen and create charcoal. Now the only difference to a normal rocket stove and what I'm doing is that it's going to be oil fed, so I'll have some kind of oil container with a drip feed there, and that's what's going to power this. So this beautiful piece of steel pipe here, which is 125 by 125 in diameter, that's what's going to make the rocket stove. And big shout out to me pals at Independent Steel in Mossvale. Not sponsored, but I like to give a shout out to top blokes, and they are top blokes. So a 44-gallon drum is about 890 tall, or 35 inches in the old money. And from the centre to the outside, roughly, is about 270 mil. So I've got to make sure that my rocket stove is long enough that it pokes out the front here and tall enough that it protrudes out the top. So that's me square tube marked out. Unfortunately it's too big to put on me nice drop saw, so I'm going to have to cut it with a grinder. Cracking day here on Dan Shedlife, so we're going to cut this one outside. While I'm cutting, ladies and gents, just a quick reminder, like and subscribe. Nearly hit 3,000 this week. It'd be awesome to hit 3,000. So if you haven't already, hit that button. And just like that, we've got our two pieces for our rocket stove. So that right there, ladies and gents, is your basic rocket stove. The fire goes in there, draws it up. You can put something on top to cook on if you want. You can put some legs on it to make it stable, but in essence, that's all it is. Pretty simple, and they work really well. So the next challenge I've got, unfortunately I couldn't get one of these with a removable lid. So I'm gonna have to cut the lid off as neat as I can and make some way of putting it back on. Maybe the old ring roller will come back into play. That's what come out of the oil drum that I got for free. I don't know what it is. Oil and water and God knows what else. Let me give it a sniff. Doesn't smell flammable, but anyway, just in case. To get rid of all this muck. So I've got to turn this into a lid. So I'm going to take a piece of strap, like so, make it into a circle on my rolling machine, tack it on there, and then that will create a lid. I did do a video on the rolling machine, so go and have a look at that one if you haven't already. All right, I'll get that cut to size and I'll tack her on. Ooh. Guess it is flammable if you get it odd enough. So the next step's pretty straightforward. I've got to get the blue thing inside the green thing. Cut a hole in the lid, 125 by 125. Cut a hole nice and square, 125 by 125, and install it. So I do want this to sit up off the base a little bit so it doesn't burn the bottom out. So I will mark, let's say 50 mil. What did I say, 125. See if you... Oof, cut her a bit big if anything. Just going to make some kind of tabs to bend that up so it sits nice and tight. Okay. So that'll slot over there like that, and I'll bash them tabs in a bit to suit once it's in situ. And speaking of in situ, that's how it's going to sit. It's starting to come together. So a couple of modifications to this. I've put a little bit of plate in the front there to stop my oil dribbling out, and I've got a foot at the back there to make up the difference between the level of the hole and the bottom of the drum. And that will sit like that. Happy days. So something very important that I nearly forgot to add. This pipe here sits inside the drum and doesn't go quite to the top, and the wood gas will get sucked down through there into there, and wood gas is flammable, so it kind of it's almost heating itself. So now I've got to work on a container to hold the waste oil and something to, a pipe to go down into there to drip to feed the fire. Well, it's the next day here on Dan's Shed Life, and I've jerry-rigged up a bit of a container. I'll show you a closer look at that in a second. It is only temporary. I will replace it with something better later on, but this is for proof of concept. So I'm going to take the lid off this, load it up with firewood, get her cranked up, and see if we can make some charcoal. So she's a bit crude at the moment, but that's all I had on me at the time. So, like I say, proof of concept. Okay, lid's on. But what I want to do, I want to put a bit of clay or something, I'm not sure, I'll have to have a look around, see what I got around this to seal this off. A few people might comment that the gas has to escape, but remember we put that little tube in, that goes down. Hopefully the gas will draw out of there and contribute to the heat coming out of here. Not afraid to get our hands dirty here on Dan's Shed Life. Just making up some, well, I wouldn't say clay, more like mud. I'm going to pack it on this thing over here. Back in a minute, just got to wash my hands. So I don't know if that'll do anything or not, but worth a go. Not too bothered if it doesn't. I don't think there's going to be too much oxygen getting in there. Righto, so I've got the Exxon Valdez hooked up. It's going to dribble oil in there. Just to get it going, a bit of rag. There's a bit of oil in there already. I'll just get that soaked into the rag, a bit more on top. Let's see how she's flowing. Without further ado, so the oil's off at the moment. A bit of charcoal that I made in the other video. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that. Alright, we'll let that go for a bit, and then we'll, once she's a bit hotter, I'll turn the oil on. So that's burning for 30 seconds. I haven't got the oil going yet, and look at that, barely a whiff of smoke. That's how good these rocket stoves work. I'll add a bit of oil, see how we're going. Might not be hot enough yet, it's only been burning for a couple of minutes. Just trying to get that as thin a little stream as I can. It's a bit difficult. This valve I'm using here, this is some air conditioning or refrigeration thing that my young bloke got me. It's not really designed for this purpose. So I've been going for about 10 minutes. One thing that is concerning is the amount of smoke that's sort of coming out from inside the lid there. I definite improvement. As I keep saying, would be one of those drums where the lid fixes on. I'm hoping that all the smoke that's coming out of there is just a bit of oil residue and maybe the paint from the drum. Another improvement I would make is I would wrap it in insulation to keep all the heat on the inside there. However, I do want to see if this is something that you could sort of feasibly stand around and keep warm while you're making your charcoal. Bring you back in maybe half an hour. So we're about an hour in and the smoke sort of stopped coming out of the outside of the barrel there, and yeah, it's burning pretty clean, going good. Definitely, if I could seal that up, that's going to be a big bonus, because the tube that's poking down there, if it's sealed up, it'll force the wood gas back down into the chamber there, and I'd love to see how that burns. So more improvements to come, but so far so good. This is, I don't know, you couldn't leave your hand on it, but it's not super hot. It'd be nice to stand around, I guess. But I think if you're serious about making charcoal, you'd be wrapping that in some insulation. Okay, moment of truth, ladies and gents. Ooh, no, she's still a bit hot. Gonna leave it for a bit longer. Pop the top and have a look. Looks charcoaly. Not quite full charcoal, but getting there. That's charred all the way through. So it mustn't have been far off. So I'll fire it up again today and we'll let it run for another 2 hours, I reckon, and see what we've got. But the good thing is it didn't set fire to any of it, so we're winning. Okay, so this has cooled off enough, I think. I'm going to pop the lid and have a look, see what we've made. Looks pretty charcoaly. Not too bad. There you go. That's charcoal. Happy days. So still a few improvements, ladies and gents, but for now, pretty happy with that. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.